Hello, everyone. Now, before I begin, Ireland's favourite lubricant. Mine's out of the gutter. This is what lubricates most conversations. It's lovely. Now, it has been some time since I spoke to, well, I could say anybody, but that wouldn't be true. I have seen people. To all of you lovely people out there in internet land, I'm currently basking in the glow of having lost a whole kilo, of which I'm extremely proud. One of these days, I will find it and speak quite sternly. Now, it has been a while, and in that time, as you have seen, most of Europe has known fire of some sort. Where I live in France, we've had fire quite close by. We have seen clouds of smoke coming from the bigger fires to the west of us, near the Atlantic coast. We have seen the Canadair, those lovely big yellow and red planes that you will have seen on your television screens, which bring water to these fires, doing their best to put them out. So that's been the summer. We're fortunate here in my area, although it has been desert like in the effects that having no rain has created, a desert like landscape. And I know it's spread to Ireland, spread to Britain, but we had it for longer. And the people further south had it for longer than us. Anyway, it's not a competition. We had more than most. Now, I'd like to speak, sounds like a university presentation today. I would like to speak about uh, alone but lonely. Now, I live alone, and there are times where, yeah, it can become a little fraught. You think not bad things, not horrible things. You just think, God, wouldn't it be nice? And then you maybe catch on to yourself a little and go, no, actually, this is quite good. But is it? And I often think of people. I've always been able to enjoy my own company. I'm quite happy being solitary, but I tend to live, on polar opposites and very gregarious. I like being with lots of other people, but I also like being alone. I'm never bored. As I've said before, always lots going on in here somewhere. The goblins are always busy. But I think of other people who aren't perhaps as fortunate, who find being alone to be a burden, and indeed it does turn into being lonely, which is very different. Being lonely is not nice. People who may go to work and see people, but then there's that horrible thought where that evening, once they close the front door behind themselves, they're going to be not only alone, but they're going to be lonely until they go to work again. And then there are the weekends, probably going to be alone too, because it's quite likely this becomes a pattern that's repeated now. I do this. I turn into a bear. Not that sort of bear. No, we're not going there. A bear in the sense of being alone, living in my own little cave, hibernation times, and then going off and doing my own thing. So there are people like myself who don't let it bother them that much, but it does crop every now and then. It pokes its head out the hole a bit like a gopher, a prairie dog. But for those who can't get it out of their heads, and it has to be a very tough thing. And it's okay when you're in your 20s and 30s. I knew people when I lived in London who lived alone, didn't have a huge social circle. They'd go to work, they'd come in, have a few pints, and then go home. Mainly men. Now it has to say a lot of them were Irish men in their 30s, 40s, some in their 50s, but they'd never formed those associations because going to England was, you know, for the older ones, they would have seen it as going there for a long time. For the younger ones, yeah, we'd go over for a year or two, and 10 years later, they're still there. The pub is the only island of hope. No, that sounds like a terrible thing. And in many cases, it was. But I think men need a place to go. Men need to talk about men's things. Now, in recent times in the world, all men's institutions, men only institutions, are seen as a bad thing. Okay, well, if you want to get rid of those, that's fine. You will have to deal with the consequences, or actually, you won't. It'll be those men's families as their social structures are slowly but surely taken to the ground. I'm not saying it's any worse for women, but women tend to have more places to go. I don't mean to say women don't fall into the same trap of loneliness, but believe me, men make up a greater proportion of the alone and lonely population than women do. So in saying that, I'd say, are we okay? Myself, I'd say mostly, mainly, maybe not. Depends on the day. For other people, they may not be okay. They may look okay because people see them in a certain context. Work, maybe they volunteer a little, so they see them under those circumstances. And many people don't like to complain. They don't like to talk about themselves, so nobody ever gets to know them. And then that's the self-fulfilling prophecy. Because you don't want to talk about yourself, you don't want to complain. And then you go home, and that area of possibility where you could speak to somebody closes, closes, closes. Now, as I've said before, even saying hello to somebody is a good thing. It opens a door. But there are those who don't see that because all they want to do is do their thing, whatever it is, work, going to do their bit of shopping, and going home. So we force ourselves into these places sometimes, and people might feel intimidated. Especially in a big city. I'd give London as an example. These are intimidating places. Towns are intimidating. Big city. It causes people to retrench, to turn on themselves, as it were. How do we mitigate loneliness? I don't know. I couldn't give advice on that. I give one or two ideas. But then I'd be talking, forcing myself to do things. But I think it's possible. I think it's possible for me. For me, I think it's a matter of, as a dear person said, a person who's very dear to me said, put one foot in front of the other. Do it once, do it twice, do it again. But there are those who do that, and unfortunately, it's pace forward, sometimes two back. It's kind of too difficult. How do we get around that? I don't know. And that's where being kind to somebody comes in. It's where saying, "Are you okay? Hello?" One of these. You can only do it with, I think, small steps. For me, it's why try to do. Doesn't necessarily work for me, but it's worth trying every now and then. I'll try it. Sometimes I come back here to my temple of solitude and think, well, I have to get out there somehow. No, I've been badgered. And it's been suggested by a few people to go and seek group activities. Yes, but I haven't done it. So I'm not one to give advice. I'm not going to say I will do it because that's pointless. Until I find myself before or in the midst of a group of people doing something, that's the only time I'll talk about it. There we go. I'm just bringing up how you go about mitigating loneliness. There's a comment section here. Please share. Please share your feelings. Please say how you feel. At least I'm doing this. I'm saying how I feel. I'm saying that being alone, it's not too bad. Loneliness, not really. Not yet. I'm no doubt that will grow in years to come, but maybe it won't. It depends with what I fill my life. And allied to that, breaking loneliness. How do you break loneliness? Like I said, I write. That helps me. It's not creating a virtual world. Writing is great because you have something. It's on a page, whether it's on a page on your word processor, the word processing part of your computer. I'm not that old, but it's there. You can see it. You can press a button and it comes out in your printer. It's tangible. So you know you're doing something, you can hand it to somebody, or you can press another button and send it to somebody and say, read that, please. Which I've done. Responses have been reasonably fair. But it's done with small things. Again, it's not done by big acts. It's done by doing little things. Again, I won't say anything until I've done something like that, apart from writing. And the next time, I would hope to have one or two other little things done, which may not encourage people. I'm not looking to do that, but it's to say to people that small things, just doing small things, might be of help. But then, maybe people like being alone. I'm not saying they don't. Maybe people are happy to close the door behind themselves and say, you know what? I like this. I'm happy. But I think that would be a small enough number of people. Having space to yourself is great. Even if it's in a big city. If you have your bed sit, some people still have bed sits. Or your flat or wherever it may be. Some people live in mansions all alone. You don't have to, it doesn't have to be a small bed sit. Some people have bigger places in which to be lonely. People with lots of money, very lonely. Maybe they're just alone. Maybe they enjoy being alone. But I think it's always tinged with loneliness. How do you get out of it? I don't know. But I think it's what I said. Little things. But I shall report on this. What I'd like is for people to think about this. People who are alone. What do you do? What do you do to feel better? What do you think about? Do you have anything to add to the conversation? Are you going to say, Kelly, you don't know what you're talking about? I do a little bit, but I'm not trying to provide solutions. That's not what this shop does. It's a talking shop. I'm very good at talking. Talk is cheap. But just to get a reaction, and then you get an interaction. Again, You know, down here somewhere. Use the space. Some people are solitary by nature. I'm not completely solitary. I am not an island. Sometimes I am. Like I said, sometimes I'm very bearish. I just want to go off and do my own thing. I think that may strike a lot of people. But you, again, I love your word spectrum. Some people are on this end firmly. They can't bear to be alone. Bear to be alone. I know. I've been away from this too long. Summer has fried my brain, I think. It got astonishingly hot here. In full sun, it was touching 50 degrees. With my gorgeous Irish complexion, I dared not go under that sun. I would have burst into flame. Not good. I'll finish up by saying that being solitary is not a good or a bad thing. But being able to mitigate being alone and not going over to loneliness, trying to find a way of avoiding that is vital. Like I said, I shall try. Now, the last thing I'd say is, of course, I would say most people who live alone, they would look forward to having a bit of company, something to keep the feet warm during the long winters. That can be very difficult. Where do you do it? How do you do it? People who are lonely are often very vulnerable. So put that in the comments. I will talk about this again, but I need some responses. Not necessarily subscribers, but it would be nice to see more of me. But give your opinions. Opinions are easy. What you must do with an opinion is you have to think about it. You have to look at yourself. I do, and sometimes I go, ugh, especially in the morning. It's not pretty. But as the day goes on, you get this. Okay, I'm going to leave you now. I'm sure you've missed all my silliness. I will speak to you all. I said this last time, very soon, but summer got in the way and it got very hot. And there you go. Now I'm going to go back to drinking my mug of tea. I'm maybe cooking some food. I know it's late and it's not good, especially having lost that kilo to eat late, but it'll be soup. So you're okay. So look, I will say, be well, be happy, be safe. If you have a god or a goddess, may your god or may your goddess go with you.